Hey kids, Mrs. Broderick here. I am going to go through Punnett squares with you today so that you're prepared to do your assignment for the week. I would review this video first, and if you have any questions, email me, and then attempt to do your assignment. So first things first, you're learning about Punnett squares. This is a Punnett square. So I'm going to teach you how to make a Punnett square and what it means. So I have to erase. And you're all going to have to bear with me because I'm figuring this out as I go. I do miss you guys. Okay. First things first, we need to know what this word is. This is called an allele. An allele is a gene or a trait that's been passed from a parent. So you're gonna get one allele from mom, one from mom, and you're gonna get one allele from dad, one from dad. These alleles are going to be assigned by their dominant trait in your word problem. So alleles can look anything. Let me move this down a little bit. They can be a letter. So for our sake, they could be a capital A, a lowercase a capital B, a lowercase b, or alleles, if they look like they're uppercase. So for example, let's do M, or no, M's not going, let's do O. So if we have a uppercase O, a capital, sometimes, spelled that wrong. There you go, you all know I can't spell. We have an uppercase O, and sometimes our lowercase o look the same. So to help us through this, we are going to just add a tail, or you can do them in cursive. So S is another one that looks like it's lowercase. So we need to go and do our best at doing our cursive S's. I is another one that can be a little tricky. So we have to make sure we have a capital I and a lowercase I. Depending upon how you write, J's can be the same way. So we can go and we can do a cursive J, but you need to make sure that you know the difference. Now, why are we doing a capital and a lowercase? Well, capital letters are going to be known as our dominant trait. Our lowercase letters are known as our recessive. Now, a dominant trait is a trait that you're going to get that's going to be expressed. So a dominant trait, can you see that? Is going to be our expressed trait, or our expressed allele. And our recessive is more like the hidden trait or the allele. And I don't want to get you confused, and I don't want you to know that dominant is always going to be the strong trait and that recessives will always be the weak trait. But if that's how we're going to think about it right now, then that's how we're going to think about it. Dominant traits always tend to be the darker traits. And recessive traits always tend to be lighter if we're looking at their physical characteristics. So knowing that there's a dominant trait and a recessive trait will help you out. So how do we show these? Well, dominant traits are going to be all of our capital letters, okay? Our capital alleles. Recessive traits will be expressed as lowercase. C is a tricky one, so do that in cursive. Okay? I can't see that far over. Okay? So we are going to show them that way. There's another term that you need to know. And these two are new terms for you. We have something called homozygous and then heterozygous. These terms will be used inside of your word problems. Homozygous means the same allele assignment. Heterozygous means different allele assignment. So what does that mean? An example of what these would look like are homozygous would mean 2 capital A's. One from mom, one from dad, they're both capital, they're the same. It can also mean 2 lowercase m's. One from mom, one for dad, but they're both lowercase. It could be 2 capital S's. One from mom, one from dad. Heterozygous is a little different in that we're going to use the same letters, but we'd have 1 capital A and 1 lowercase a. One from mom, one from dad. Or 1 capital M, 1 lowercase m. One from mom, one from dad. Or 1 capital S, 1 lowercase s. One from mom, one from dad. Now, when we say homozygous, they're the same. When we say heterozygous, they're different in the allele assignment. Now, when we're doing all of this with Punnett squares, this is all just kind of basic. My board is slipping. We need to know another couple words. I know this is so much vocabulary. Just keep with it, okay? We need to know something called genotype and another word called phenotype. A genotype is the genetic makeup. So what our genes look like in our allele assignments. Phenotype is going to be our physical makeup. And that's going to be the different colors or traits that we're looking at. A genotype could look like this. Our genotypes could be capital A, or capital A, lowercase a, or little a, little a. Our phenotypes could be brown eyes, red hair, whatever we're physically trying to figure out. So that's a lot of vocabulary words for you. You've got allele, dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype. How do we do all this? Let's try one. Oh, there goes my board again. Okay, so let's try one. When we try, this is sometimes called making a cross. And it's a cross because there's a cross between 2 parents. So this is a cross or a Punnett square. Punnett squares are showing the mixture between 2 different individuals. In Punnett squares, a lot of times you put the mother's alleles on the top, and you're going to put the father's alleles on the side. In the middle, you're going to get the offspring. So we need to see what the percentage of our offspring will be. So let's try this. I'm just going to use A, okay? So let's say we take a mom who is a big A, little a, and you need to make sure you put the allele in each of these spots. Never put 2 in one spot because this is going to show us how they move away. And then the dad, let's just say he's a big A and a little a too. Notice he gets his spot, get the spot there. Next we're going to go and we have to fill in the squares. So we're going to take 1 from the dad, and one from the mom. And we're going to fill in the block. Let's go over here. One from the dad and one from the mother. And we're going to fill in the block. Down here, we take one from the mom and one from the dad, and we fill in the block. And then down here, we take one from the mother and one from the father, and we fill in the block. So I tried to color code them for you so you saw that each possibility for the offspring gets a chance at getting one gene from the mother and one from the father. And in genetics, it's kind of common to put the capital letter first. So that's just a basic rule. So just make sure that you fill in the capital letter. It'll help you when we start getting into really doing a lot of this. This is saying if the mother was heterozygous for this A allele, this A gene, and the father was heterozygous, they would get a big A would be, this is a lot of colors, 25% chance. Our chance of having big A, little a, which also means it's the same thing as saying, big A, little a, we have 2 out of the 4 blocks. So that's a 50% chance of getting that. Little a, we get a 1 out of 4, so that's a 25% chance. We're always going to kind of work with percentages right now, so we're not going to move, although if you know that 1/4 is equal to 25%, you're good. So the only numbers we deal with in Punnett squares are 0, 25, 50, 75, and 100%. That's it. It's only 1 out of 4 chance. So let's try a problem. Now, when you set up these problems, you should always have a little piece of paper with you. So it's not a bad idea if you have a little piece of paper with you right now, or you can pause the video and go get a piece of paper. But let's try going through and just doing a problem. Sometimes that just makes it easier. So I'm going to give you an example. Red flowers are dominant over purple. Now, in these beginner examples, we're going to probably tell you what's dominant and then what's recessive, and as we move on, they make it more complex. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to assign your allele. So in this word problem, we're going to write allele, and then we're going to assign it. We know that red flowers are dominant over purple, so we're going to take the R in the dominant trait, and that's going to be our allele. So we're either going to use, I'm going to use my lowercase because it doesn't look like it. We're either going to use a big R or a little r. Why aren't we using P for purple? Purple's not the dominant trait, it's the recessive. So we are going to go and see how we're going to cross 2 flowers. So if we know that red is dominant over purple, let's say we have a flower that is homozygous dominant, crossing, that means crossing, with a homozygous recessive, 2 small letters. We have to go and make our Punnett square. I hope you guys can all see that. Can you see that? And since we don't know who the mother is or the father is because it's plants, we're just going to put them in. So I'm going to put a capital R here, a capital R here for this parent, and then a lowercase r over here, lowercase over here. Now we're going to fill in the boxes. Remember, take 1 from the top and 1 from the side. So capital R, lowercase r. Capital R, lowercase r. Capital R, lowercase r. Capital R, lowercase r. Congrats, you just filled in your first Punnett square. Now we're not done yet. For every Punnett square, you have to give the genotypes and phenotypes. So let's write over on the side. And just to keep them separate, I'm going to write out the word genotype. And I'm going to write out the word phenotype. Now for our genotypes, we have to look in here and see what the possibilities are. So it's not a bad idea for right now, since you're learning, to put the possibility is capital R, lowercase r. And since all 4 blocks have it, it's a 4 out of 4 or 100%. If we crossed a homozygous red flower with a homozygous recessive purple flower, all of the flowers are going to be capital R, lowercase r, or what's the other word? Heterozygous. So we have 2 colors we can have here for our phenotype, what they look like. So if we look at our genotypes, we know 100% would be considered red, and we would have 0% purple. So let's try another one. We'll keep the same allele. Okay. And let's cross a heterozygous with a heterozygous. So let's do our Punnett square. Again, we don't know the parents, and that's okay. Put a capital here, lowercase here. Go over here. Capital, lowercase. Now let's fill in our squares. Capital R, capital R, capital R, lowercase r, capital R, lowercase r, lowercase r, lowercase r. Punnett square number 2 you filled in. Now we have to go over and fill in our genotypes and phenotypes. So let's look at our Punnett square, and we have to list our genotypes. Remember, those are the allele assignments, the genetic makeup. So we have a capital R at 1 out of the 4 squares, so 25% chance of getting a capital R with these 2 parents. We have a capital R, lowercase r. We have 2 out of the 4 squares, so that's a 50% chance. And then a lowercase r, 1 out of the 4 squares, so that's a 25% chance. So if these 2 heterozygous parents mated, you have a 25% chance of having a homozygous dominant, a 50% chance for a heterozygous, and a 25% chance for a homozygous recessive. Our phenotypes, remember, we're still using that same problem that we had. We have a choice between getting red or purple flowers. So anywhere there's a capital R, it's going to be the dominant, and in our question, the dominant is red. So we have 25 plus 50, a 75% chance of having a red flower, and only a 25% chance of having a purple. So here you can see the dominance is going to show when we have these heterozygous crossings, and you have a higher percentage of getting a dominant trait and a lower percentage of having a recessive. So let's just try one more. Actually, maybe you guys try this. So let me erase this. Okay, so let's go and let's change to something we kind of know. And let's do hair color, okay? So I'm going to write, and I'm going to give you that brown hair is dominant over red. So pause the video and let's see if you match up with my allele assignment. Hopefully you paused, but you probably didn't. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to assign my allele, and since I know brown is dominant over red, I'm going to use B. So the two alleles I use are capital B or lowercase b. Why don't you try a Punnett square with a capital B, or homozygous dominant, mating with a heterozygous. Go ahead, pause the video and give me the Punnett square, give me the genotypes and the phenotypes. Hopefully you paused. If you didn't, I'm gonna go through and do the square, okay? So, get my piece of paper. I'm gonna take the one parent, put a capital B here, capital B here, capital B here, lowercase b. Now I'm gonna fill it in. Hopefully your Punnett square looks like mine. Now, we're not done yet. We have to give the genotypes. So, the two possible genotypes we have here are capital B, and capital B, lowercase b. And if we look, we have 2 out of the 4, so we have a 50% chance of getting a homozygous dominant. And then we have 2 out of the 4 over here, so we have 50% chance of getting a heterozygous brown hair child. Down here, we need to give our phenotypes. What they're physically going to look like. Are our children going to be brown or red? Those are our 2 colors. So here's brown, here's red. Anywhere, remember we know brown is dominant, anywhere there's a capital B, it's going to be brown. So both of these actually have capital B's. So it's going to be 100% brown. And do we have any that are little b, little b? So it's 0% chance to have a redheaded child. You want to try another? Okay, one more, and then I promise I'll quit bugging you. Let's see if you can do this. And now remember, this can go for any animal. So let's just do birds and feathers. So green feathers are recessive to orange. I changed my wording there, didn't I? I say green feathers are recessive to orange. In my past questions, I've been just saying what's dominant. So now we need to understand that dominant and recessive are the opposites. So can you assign the allele for this? Let's try. Because green is recessive to the orange, orange is our dominant color. So if orange is our dominant color, we're going to be using the O. So we can either in our questions have a capital O or a lowercase o. And notice that I put the little tail on it so we know what's lowercased. Now, why don't you guys go through and I'm going to give you a scenario. An orange feathered bird is heterozygous mates with a green feathered bird. Whoa, I just gave you a word problem. Now you hate me. Let's try it though. An orange feathered bird is, sorry. Ooh, Mrs. Custer, we got me. That is heterozygous, mates with a green feathered bird. Let's figure out who our parents are. We have an orange feathered bird that is heterozygous. Remember what heterozygous means? Different. So we have a capital O and a lowercase o. That's our first bird. Mates with a green-feathered bird. We know green is recessive, so the only way to get a green bird is to have two lowercase. Hopefully some of you thought of that in your head. Let's go over and see if we can try Punnett square. I'm gonna have room. I'm not gonna have room. I'm gonna have to erase. You okay with this? Okay. So from our question, we figured out that we have a heterozygous mating with a homozygous recessive or green. So let's go and make our square. Capital, lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. So we have to do our genotypes. Capital, lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. We have a 50% chance of getting a heterozygous and a 50% chance of getting a homozygous recessive. Sometimes heterozyguses are also called carriers because they carry a weak trait, although they only show a dominant. So don't forget that word carrier. That might come up in your questions. Okay? Now let's do our phenotypes. We can have orange or we can have green. So let's look at our orange. Possibility of getting orange is anywhere there's a capital O. We have a 50% chance of getting an orange bird. Green is our recessive trait. It has to be both lowercase for it to be shown. We have actually a 50% chance of getting a green feathered bird. So if a heterozygous bird that's orange mates with a homozygous recessive or green bird, we cross them out. We get a 50% chance of the bird being orange, or the offspring, their babies, being orange, or 50% chance of their offspring being green. And this possibility is per pregnancy. So a 50% chance each time that they mate. Trying to think if there's anything else. I hope this helps some of you in some of your problems. You know, watch it, go through it, pause it if you need to. But I'm here if you have any questions or if you need me for anything. I'm here for you guys. So this is weird. I know we're all getting used to it, but I will see you guys again. So just remember, science is awesome. All right? Have a good day, guys. Good luck.